for all of the dialogue around now finalizing all of the events in those sports, as well as the athlete quotas for each of those sports and disciplines. This is a fundamental step in the planning of the games, but equally a very important one for athletes around the world to have the confirmation of the final event program for these incredible games that are waiting for us in Los Angeles. In terms of the key considerations that set the framework for those decisions today, it was agreed between the IOC and Los Angeles 2028 that the IOC, all of the sports added by the IOC, the 31 sports, would be within an overall athlete quota of 10,500, which is exactly the same overall athlete quota for the Olympic Games last year in Paris, and the athlete quotas for the 5 sports proposed by the organizing committee and approved in 2023 would be above that quota. All of the events and the finalization of the athlete quotas were done with a clear consideration about adding value to the games, value in terms of reaching out to international audiences through the broadcast and digital partnerships, and also value locally for the organizing committee in terms of the impact on the ticketing and the spectator program in Los Angeles. As you'll see, female participation in the Olympic Games has remained a center focus, and the final program that I'll outline for you really provides a powerful platform for female athletes around the world, building on the gender equality achieved for the very first time in Olympic history last year in Paris. Of course, we try and seize the opportunities to continue innovation and the evolution of the program, but also putting this always in a context of the longer term evolution of the program, balancing that innovation, balancing that value add with the cost and complexity of the games. Very shortly, we'll be publishing the details on a sport-by-sport basis, but I can highlight for you now the changes to the program that were approved at the Executive Board meeting today. Firstly, if we start in the sport of aquatics, the Executive Board approved the addition of the 50-meter events in backstroke, butterfly, and breaststroke. You may remember we already have the 50-meter freestyle events. Now the 50-meter equivalent in the other disciplines have been added. Equally, the number of water polo teams has increased from 10 to 12 on the women's water polo side. You may remember in Paris in recent games we've had 10 women, 12 men. Now we have full gender equality in the number of water polo teams, and that doesn't impact on the overall number of athletes because that quota would be found within the overall sport of aquatics. In archery, there was the approval of the addition of a compound mixed team event. We have the recurve events already in the program in archery. Compound, very popular around the world, and in particular in the US, so this is a real value add for the US as a host, as well as for the community around the world that takes part in compound. So the mixed team event was added in compound and archery using the same venue and athlete numbers. In athletics, the 4x100 meter mixed relay was added to the program. We already have the 4x400 mixed relay, as you've seen successfully in Paris. The 4x100 was in some ways a very natural addition to the program as well, using the athletes already qualified in the events there, and that's an existing part of the Athletics World Championship program. Equally, the race walk program was confirmed with the 2 individual events for men and women, but the third race walk event that was in the Olympic Games in Paris, the mixed race walk relay, was not included for the program for Los Angeles. So an additional medal on the track and 1 less in the race walk program. Basketball, you can imagine the popularity in the US and around the world. 3-on-3 made its debut as one of the innovations in Tokyo and was carried on in Paris with huge success. And the Executive Board confirmed that there would be 32 additional quota in the discipline of 3-on-3 basketball in Los Angeles. There's 4 athletes per team, so the 32 quota allows 4 additional men's teams and 4 additional women's teams. Increased universality in a very successful sport, and obviously, again, the popularity of basketball will really make this a high-value addition to the program locally and around the world for Los Angeles. Boxing was confirmed in the program, as we mentioned, just a few weeks ago at the IOC session in Greece. You may remember that we have had gender equality in athletes. We now have gender equality equally in the number of events, with 7 women's events and 7 men's events. So 1 additional women's weight category added to boxing, but with the same athlete quota as previous games. Football, there's a significant variation, again, in the interests of the promotion of women's sport. We have traditionally in the Olympic Games had 16 men's teams and 12 women's teams. That will be reversed for Los Angeles 2028, and we will have 16 women's teams and 12 men's teams. This reflects the growth of women's football around the world. It's one of the most popular, fastest growing forms of sport around the world. We've seen incredible growth in women's participation in team sport and popularity and visibility of women's team sport, with women's football being an absolute leader in that regard. Women's football and men's football have both been hugely successful in the Olympic Games in terms of ticketing and broadcast audiences, media coverage around the world. And what better place to increase the number of women's teams than the USA itself? Multiple women's world champions, hugely popular, the domestic football for women in the USA. So while keeping the overall number of 28 football teams, it will now be 16 women's teams and 12 men's teams for the games in Los Angeles. Golf, again, a hugely popular addition to the program over recent games after its debut in Rio. We saw the incredible fields of the top players that we had in both men and women in Paris. The mixed team event will be added to the Golf Olympic program for Los Angeles. This gives a second chance for the top golfers in the world to not only compete at the Olympic Games, but potentially medal at the Olympic Games, and brings together the top men and women from around the world to compete for their NOC in a mixed team event in golf. Similarly, in gymnastics, artistic gymnastics is one of the most popular disciplines in the Olympic program, and you can imagine the profile in the USA of artistic gymnastics. The board today approved the addition of a mixed artistic team event to the program of gymnastics, again adding huge value both locally and interest locally, as well as the broadcast audiences around the world. So a fantastic addition to the gymnastics program, again reflecting gender equality. Modern pentathlon, there was a slight reduction of the athlete quota, and I'll come on to the athlete quotas in a minute. In rowing, the executive board confirmed the events in coastal rowing, which will have 2 individual events and 1 mixed event. Coastal rowing is a new addition to the program. It takes the place of the lightweight rowing in the overall rowing program, and obviously being a coastal event reaches out to new rowing communities around the world. So 3 events, 1 male, 1 female, and 1 mixed confirmed in coastal rowing. Sport climbing is another sport that is new to the games over recent editions, added in Tokyo as part of the new sports, along with skateboarding and surfing there. In sport climbing, you may remember in Paris we had a dedicated medal for the speed event and still had a combined medal for the lead and boulder. That combined medal will be split into individual medals for each of lead and boulder for Los Angeles. So this gives us in sport climbing for Los Angeles dedicated medals for each of the 3 disciplines, speed, lead, and boulder, for the very first time, and a small athlete increase there to make sure we have at least 12 athletes in each of those events. And then finally, in terms of additional events, we have another mixed team event in table tennis, hugely popular, again, around the world, as well as in the USA and California. So the addition of a mixed team event, building on the existing athlete numbers as well. Overall, and you'll see in the summary press release that will go out shortly, again, the number of athletes across the 31 sports confirmed on the IOC side will be exactly 10,500, the same number as we had in Paris, with the switch in the number of teams in football and the addition of 2 women's water polo teams. This will mean, for the very first time in Olympic history, we will have more women athletes than men. So across the 10,500, there will be 5,333 quota available for women athletes and 5,167 for men. So 50.7% female and 49.3% male across those 10,500 athletes. Equally, in the 5 sports proposed and fully supported by the IOC, proposed from the organizing committee, there's an additional 698 athletes. That number is obviously driven by the fact that 4 of those 5 sports are team sports. So when you add together the 10,500 for the IOC added sports and the 5 proposed from the organizing committee, that will give a grand total of 11,000 198 athletes, still more female athletes than male, with 50.5% of those being female and 49.5% being male. So the very first time again in Olympic history, we will have more quota available for women than for men. And with that, Christian, I just maybe just finish by again some of the key messages that the Program Commission put forward in partnership with the federations and the Program Commission, and fully supported by Los Angeles and the Executive Board today. This program really gives a powerful platform and promotion of female athletes the first time in Olympic history. As I said, there will be more quota places available for qualification for women than for men, reaching full gender equality in boxing and water polo, to add to all of the other sports we've achieved gender equality in Paris. 6 new mixed events, for us the real epitome of gender equality, with men and women competing as equals in the same team for their country, adding significant value for the organizing committee in Los Angeles, reaching out to new communities around the US and through our broadcast and digital partners to new communities around the world, and in every case making use of existing venues. And there we've continued the optimization program to reduce the cost and complexity of the games while adding significant value with every opportunity we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kit. Thank you, Christoph. And now it's time for your questions. And the first one goes to Ed Hula. Ed, great to hear you.
Yeah, good to hear you. Good to see you. Can you hear me okay?
Very well, thank you.
Excellent. This has nothing to do with the sport program, but I'm just wondering if, given that you're the chairman of the Finance Commission was in Lausanne or in touch with you today, was there any discussion about the impact of the trade wars going on right now and the concerns about finance around the world? Any discussion about the IOC's financial position and any steps it's taking to mitigate any risk or harm from the turmoil going on right now? Thanks.
Christoph, do you take that?
Yeah, Ed, happy to take this one. There were no discussions today on this point during the executive board, and the one thing, and you've been involved for so many years, and so have we. I think we cannot speculate at this stage, Ed, and all cogs, the sport movement in general, are constantly facing evolving circumstances, and these are organizations that are bound to adapt over a longer period of times. And being 10 years out or 2, you might face anything, and we have to be confident. And this is something that Casey has, I think, very well expressed during his presentation in Costa Navarino in Greece, was the good work that is being done between LA 28 and the administration in Washington. He expressed at this stage a lot of confidence, and this is what we build upon.
Thank you, Christoph. Thank you, Ed. Next question goes to Carolus Grohmann from Reuters. Carolus, great.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thanks, Christian. A question for Kit. Kit, could you go into a bit more detail on the changes of the soccer tournament for LA with the 16 women's teams, 12 men's teams, and the discussions with FIFA regarding those changes?
Yeah, thank you, Carlos, and appreciate the question. It's obviously quite a significant and very progressive move, done very much in dialogue with Los Angeles and, of course, with FIFA. I have to say FIFA's been a great partner in the Olympic football tournaments, and this is a sign of that partnership. Again, I think when you look at the incredible popularity of football generally around the world, and within this is the incredible growth of popularity of the women's game, in many ways reflecting the growth of popularity of women's sport generally and women's team sport that we've seen across a number of the Olympic sports over recent games as well. Here, the discussions were around containing the overall athlete numbers, using the same number of venues, and the discussion came up about, was there something innovative we could do to reflect that growth in the women's game, in women's football, and equally with the US being in some ways the home of the highest levels of popularity for women's football. It really opened that discussion between FIFA, LA, and ourselves. So that was fully supported on our side, but done very much in partnership with FIFA and with LA28, and we think it'll be an incredible success. We've seen the competitiveness of the women's game, not only at the elite level, but even to qualify for women's World Cups and women's Olympic tournaments. We see some of the teams that didn't make it to Paris in the Olympic tournament, so it's hugely competitive, incredible growth and popularity. We see the crowds watching, the media coverage, the broadcast numbers around the world. So there's no better place for us to make this move than in the US, and it really symbolizes, I think, the progress in women's sport around the world, and something to be really excited about.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carolus. We go now to Joe from Bird's Nest Media. Joe.
Yes, thank you. Good evening to everyone in Lausanne. Good afternoon from the United States. Kit, probably a question for you, and I may have missed this. What were the quotas for flag football specifically? And then maybe a little bit more generally, can you talk about, especially as you're approaching a new sport, how quotas, or new sports or new disciplines, how quotas are reached for sports that are added to the Olympic program?
No, absolutely. Thank you, Joe. Look, in flag, the numbers will be in the detailed press release that we put out shortly. I think looking at my notes here, we've obviously got 6 men's teams and 6 women's teams, the same number of teams we do across all of the OCOG proposed sports, and I think the team numbers are 10 per team, but we'll confirm that in the press release that goes out shortly, Joe, and that's gender equal, of course, in terms of the number of teams and the number of athletes. In terms of the second part of your question, I think it related to the considerations around the additions, did it, on the sport program?
Yeah, just generally speaking, like how when a new sport is added to the Olympic program, how do you approach the addition, or how do you approach the quota topic?
Yep. No, very good question. Look, firstly, in terms of the considerations around the OCOG proposal, I think this is the flexibility that was first introduced through the Olympic agenda for Tokyo, and the success of that we still see in the program now, with surfing, sport climbing, and skateboarding having continued as OCOG proposals for Paris then being brought on by the IOC side. So it really does give something special for each edition of the Games, and with the package put together by Los Angeles, this reaches out to the team sport communities around the country, embraces the links with the NFL in regard to flag, with the question you've put forward. So each of them really brings something unique, but also something collective in terms of reaching out to different sports communities around the country. In terms of the quotas, the approach taken has been pretty clear, I think, for Los Angeles. For Paris, because we had the 3 S's, skateboarding, surfing, and sport climbing, as well as breaking. Those were all individual sports put forward by Paris. So all of those numbers could be taken within the 10,500. But for Los Angeles, that was always going to be very difficult because of the 4 team sports put forward and the sizes of the athletes involved, and trying to find 600 or 700 athlete quotas for that package from within the 10,500 of the existing sports was always going to be very difficult. So that's why, in agreement with Los Angeles, we reached the agreement that the 10,500 number for Paris would be kept for the same set of sports, and the OCOG proposed sports would be on top. That doesn't necessarily set the precedent for the future. It's specific to Los Angeles because of the nature of the sports that they put forward. So it's a solution that's perfect for Los Angeles, but for future games, maybe looked at differently.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you. And sorry, Joe, I just did get confirmation that the numbers I gave were accurate, which is always good. So it's both 6 teams for men and women and 10 athletes per team. So 60 men, 60 women, and 120 total. Thank you.
That's great. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Joe. We go now to Wakako Yuki from the Yomiuri Shimbun. Good evening or good night to you in Japan.
It's early in the morning.
Early in the morning.
2 a.m.
Oh my goodness.
But
Good
thank
morning.
you so much for taking my question. Probably it goes to both gentlemen, actually, Christopher and Kit, if I may, this gender equality, actually, innovative move to even surpass the gender equality. What is the philosophy behind it? We understand that Olympic Games is unique in such that where representation of women and men can be quite well received on the both way, whereas in other part of the world, especially when professional sports, still men's sports is dominant, including our media report. So what are the things that is behind to make you go beyond the gender equality even, but more like in a way to promote female participation or female popularity? Also, is there any kind of data, any kind of standard that you would you may give to the world when you would try to create these kind of situation like football? Does this do we expect to have these situations may occur in other events or sport in the future? Thank you.
No, thank you very much, especially this
Merci,
time in Tokyo.
surtout parce que c'est
for
vraiment
not only
très tôt
joining,
le
but the
matin
question.
chez vous. Merci pour cette question.
And it's a really good one because it
Et je crois
takes
que
a step
c'est
back
une
from
très
the
bonne
pure numbers to
question
talk
parce
about
qu'on
the
peut
importance of gender
pas parler
equality.
simplement des
And as you know,
nombres, mais de
overall,
l'égalité ou
recent
de la
games,
parité
we've
de genre.
increased
Récemment,
the
nous
number
avons
of women's
augmenté le
athletes
nombre
while
d'athlètes
containing the
femmes,
overall number
alors
of
que nous
athletes,
avons
and
réussi à
Paris
contenir
reached
le
full
nombre
gender
total. Et à
equality for the
Paris,
first
on
time
a
in
vu une
history,
parité totale. C'était la première fois
within
dans
the
l'histoire des Jeux.
10,500.
Et
I think
le
this
chiffre
time
qu'on a pu
we
respecter, c'était 10 500
we used
athlètes.
Paris as a
Cette
base, but
fois-ci,
every
nous
single
avons
one of those
pris Paris
decisions
comme base, mais
was
chacune
merit-based.
des décisions a
That
été
was
basée
taken
sur les
for the
mérites
program for Los
de
Angeles.
chaque
Starting at
discipline
the
pour le programme de
10,500, when
Los
we look at
Angeles.
the
10
changes
500,
that have
lorsqu'on
been
regarde
made,
les
the two
changements qui ont
additional
été
teams in
introduits,
women's water
2
polo to
équipes
reach
supplémentaires pour le
gender
water
equality
polo,
there,
pour
very
avoir
much
la
based
parité de
on
genre, basée
the
une fois
increased
de plus
competitiveness
sur
in
la
women's water polo,
compétitivité
the number of teams
accrue
that
dans
are
le water
pushing
polo féminin,
for
le
those
nombre
final
d'équipes
places, so
qui
very much
veulent avoir la
merit-based
dernière place.
as well
Donc,
as a
c'est
goal
vraiment
of reaching
basé
gender
sur le
equality.
mérite et
And
aussi
again, when we look
en
at
vue
women's
d'avoir
football, we've
parité
seen the
de genre.
incredible
Et pour le
growth of
football
women's team
féminin,
sport
il y a une
around the
croissance
world.
incroyable
Women's football being a
dans
leader in
le
that regard.
football des
So,
femmes. C'est vraiment un leader à cet
Paris
égard.
reached gender
Donc,
equality.
Paris
We see
a
the huge
réussi à
message
atteindre
that
la
sends, but
parité de
also the
genre.
direct
Ça
impact that
envoie
has on women's sport
un
around the
message
world.
très
Every
important, mais
single one of
cela a
those
un
quota
impact pour
places
chaque
in the Olympic
place
Games.
dans le quota
There's a
pendant les
number of
Jeux olympiques.
countries that
Il y
are
a un
investing in
nombre de
women's
pays
sport
qui
to chase
investissent
that
dans le sport
qualification
féminin
place. So
afin de
when
pouvoir
we add
avoir
two
cette
teams
place
in
de
water polo,
qualification.
it's
Donc,
not just further
lorsqu'on
investment
ajoute
in
des
two
équipes, ce
countries
n'est pas simplement
in women's water
un
polo.
investissement dans
When
2 pays
we
pour le water
had
polo.
4 women's
Lorsque
Olympic
nous
football
avons
teams,
4
that's
équipes
not just another 4
féminines dans le
countries that
foot,
are
ce n'est
chasing
pas
those
simplement
places.
4 pays qui
We're
cherchent à
working
avoir
with
une
FIFA
place,
to build on the
qui
incredible
travaillent
job they've
avec
done for
FIFA pour
regions and
pouvoir construire sur le
member
travail que
associations
eux
to
ils
grow
ont fait,
women's
et
football.
les
We can
associations
add to that
qui
and
s'engagent
amplify
à
that.
faire
And we've
croître le
seen
football
that
féminin.
impact. We see it
Et
on the
nous
field of
voyons
play
quel est
with the
l'impact. Nous
performances
voyons sur le
as
terrain
well.
de jeu avec les
So the message
performances
of
à
gender
la clé.
equality is a really
Donc vraiment le
important one for us.
message
And again,
de
every
la
single
parité
one
de genre
of
très
those
importante pour
decisions
nous.
that has
Et
been taken for Los
chacune des
Angeles to
décisions que nous
promote
avons prises
women's
pour Los
sport
Angeles
even
afin
more
de
is
promouvoir le sport
merit-based. It's
féminin
based on
est
performance
basée
on
sur
the
les
field of
mérites.
play,
C'est
and it's based on
basé
the
sur les
value they
performances
bring.
sur
You
le
asked
terrain de
about
jeu
the
et
data.
sur la valeur
All of these
que
decisions are
ce
also
sport
supported by the
apporte.
numbers. They're supported by the ticket demand that we've seen for women's sport at recent games, most notably the incredible success in Paris across all of the venues, but including every single session focused on women's sport. We've seen the broadcast numbers for women's sport being absolutely equal, if not even stronger, than for men's sport around the Olympic Games. And we've seen the media coverage increase exponentially as a result of ours and working with federations and with hosts, but working together to promote women's sport. So again, all merit-based and all reflected in both participation and popularity. So it's really a complete package, and we really thank LA28 for supporting this. It's central to their vision as well, and of course the work all of the international federations are doing to promote women's sport as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kit. Thank you, Vakako.
Merci, Kit.
And
Merci,
with this, we go
Wakako.
to Lisa Roche from
Et nous
Deseret
allons
News.
à Lisa Roche.
good,
Lisa,
day to Utah.
Uta.
Oh, thank you. I
Merci
appreciate
beaucoup. J'apprécie
it.
cela.
We are hearing increasingly here in the United States about concerns over visa issues for athletes as well as fans of the upcoming FIFA World Cup. I'm wondering what concerns there are surrounding that for the Los Angeles games. Was that discussed at all by the EB? And more broadly, how is the IOC monitoring this situation? And when would you intercede if indeed some people are prevented from getting here to the United States? Thank you.
That we pass on to Christoph.
Yeah, Lisa, not discussed today. And again, no speculation at this stage. We know that entering into a territory, by the way, for Paris was the
Territoire, et
Schengen
ça vaut la
territory,
même
there
chose.
were a number of conditions that were applied to any games participants. So we have, as I said to Ed before, we have to adapt to the local circumstances. And what is really important for all of us on this side of the table is to understand what the conditions are so that we can adapt. And to do this, it takes strong partnerships between the organizing committee and the public authorities. We've done this in France, including some difficult situations. We found very good solutions with the government. And the same will be done in the future, being in Italy in a few months from now, and over a more distant future, United States, Australia, name them. So there, I would reiterate what I said before. The work between the organizing committee and Washington is really good. They really have a strong relationship. And we trust that the work that is being done between those in Washington and in LA will be productive in this respect. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you, Christoph. Thank you, Lisa. Next one in line is Rachel Pretty from L'Équipe. Bonsoir, Rachel.
Bonsoir, merci beaucoup. Je vais poser ma question en français pour Christophe. Alors, après la signature du contrat,
After signing the
est-ce
contract,
que vous pouvez
can
nous
you
en
tell
dire un
us?
peu plus sur la mission
Can you
qui
tell
a
us something
été
about
confiée
the
à Étienne
mission which
Dubois
has been
et
given
préciser
to
aussi les dates de la
Mr.
venue
Dubois, and
de la
also perhaps
commission
tell us
sur,
when the
sur les
Commission
sites, donc
is
dans les
going to go
Alpes du
to the
Sud
sites
et du
in
Nord.
the
Merci beaucoup.
northern and southern sites in the Alps.
Oui, merci Rachel. Effectivement, j'ai conclu le propos préliminaire par le fait que
I concluded the preliminary introduction saying that we were able to make formal progress with the IOC and the organizing committee. The mission of the different persons who will be involved over the next few months, and we're talking about 30 or so different persons, and we're still finalizing their activities. Things are quite complicated. I believe that during the session, I said during the games, but I meant to say during the session in Greece, I said that we are actually trying to go into the details of what the mission is going to accomplish. And we're working together with different persons with regards to what we're going to be doing, but also to the fact that the mission will be going out in December, and with the deliverables that will have to be discussed, obviously. I think that all the persons who have responsibilities are fully involved in the whole process. And it's important that we should have a framework for us to be able to work on site.
J'aimerais bien que ça se fasse aux alentours du
I
mois
hope
de mai.
it's going to be done around the month of May. That's what we're aiming for. So there are going to be about 30 persons who will be involved between now and the end of the year. As to the second question you asked, the coordination committee today has a president, Pierre-Olivier Beckers, who is the chair, and we're intending to go on site in Nice and La Clusaz and Grand Bornand in the next When exactly? Well, it's around the Easter period. We wanted to be able to go and visit the 4 clusters, but once again, this has to still be finalized, and we will be informing the media, and we will be telling you when we will be where, as we did with the evaluation committee. Thank you very much. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Christophe.
Next one is Takafumi Yoshida from Kyoto. Takafumi, it's your turn. Oh, he put the hand down, Takafumi. Then we go to Jonathan Crane from Deutsche Welle. Jonathan, the floor is yours. That was a surprise, Jonathan.
Can you? Yeah, I think I'm up now. Yeah. Can you see me and hear me? Cool. Hi, yeah, thanks. Yeah, probably a question for Kit. I think you were at the IBSF Congress recently, is that right?
Sorry, I just missed the federation.
The IBSF.
Yep, yes.
Yeah, I just wondered, what conversations are you having with winter sports federations about the possible return of Russian and Belarusian athletes, obviously looking ahead to the Winter Olympics in Milano Cortina? And if winter sports federations decide they don't want Russian and Belarusian athletes returning to competition so that they can qualify for those Olympics, is that a decision that the IOC would respect? Thanks.
No, thanks, Jonathan. On the neutral athletes, I think we can look back on a very smooth return of the neutral athletes on the summer side, both prior to clearly at Paris, and then in an ever-increasing number of the Summer Olympic International Federations since Paris. I think our position remains very clear and consistent since the start of 2023, in that following the request from the stakeholders, the athletes, the NOCs and the international federations, the IOC established a recommended protocol for the return of the neutral athletes for Russian and Belarusian passports to the field of play. And that's really reflective of the fundamental principle that we strongly support, that athletes should not be punished for the actions of their governments. And that's why the recommendation allows the pathway back to the field of play. And invariably, it's been a very smooth return where those neutral athletes have taken part in competitions. In terms of the winter federations, you're right, we're in discussions with many of them to explain the experience on the summer side, to explain the experience in Paris, where again it has been a very smooth return, very clear protocols and very clear processes of eligibility review that now exist across any number of the summer Olympic federations. So we're really explaining the principles and also how the processes of eligibility reviews can work, everything from anti-doping checks through to the individual eligibility checks, to make sure the winter federations have a very good understanding of what has happened in the summer sports and a very good understanding of how they can approach it in regard to their own individual sports. So those discussions are continuing. You will have seen the return to the field of play in ski mountaineering, the planned return to the field of play in skating, and the other winter federations continuing their discussions in this regard as well. So again, the principles are clear regarding not punishing athletes for the actions of their governments, and the examples of processes to allow that are very clear as well. And that's what we're discussing with the winter federations.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kit. A quick apology in between. We had a little hiccup with the languages on YouTube. French took over from English, and for a while there was the French translation instead of the English. Apologies for that one. Next one in line is Sally Spickard from Eventing Nation. Sally, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Thank you so much for taking my call. Good afternoon to you. I actually have 2 questions for you that I'm hoping you can answer. I was kind of coming to this hoping that we would hear some news on the venue allocation plan from the LA City Council that was approved. So I'm wondering if you have any updates on that, specifically for me towards the equestrian venue that was ratified by the LA City Council for Galway Downs a couple weeks ago. My follow-up question to that pertains specifically to equestrian sports and the quotas that you have identified, and whether or not you are able to say if there are specific quotas for all 3 disciplines or if it's a general quota for equestrian in general. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Salim, I might take the first question, Kit respond to the second. So today the executive board has validated the master plan in broad terms. And that's a really practical and very helpful step forward. As for the announcement, including each and every detail, let's be clear, this will be the responsibility of LA. What I can tell you, though, is that the key principles that were followed for the establishment of the master plan was to use and maximize the existing venues, no new permanent infrastructures, maximize also the opportunities within the city of LA, and also regroup the venues to avoid standalone. Every time you have standalone, you are complexifying the operation. So all in all these principles were followed, and now the master plan has been adopted. For the details, let's wait until LA will make the announcement.
Thanks, Christophe. And Sally, just in regard to the sports side of equestrian, yes, the quota will remain exactly as it was in Paris 2024. So a total of 200 athletes with the same split across dressage, eventing and jumping. So that has been confirmed. Obviously, the qualification systems around that to be further developed over the coming months. And maybe just to add on to Christophe's point, I think we could also really thank the active engagement of the International Equestrian Federation in all of those discussions regarding the venue and all of the elements regarding equestrian planning for LA. They've been a really strong partner with LA in working through all of those considerations. So a big thank you to them, and it's a very strong partnership, obviously supported by LA and the local equestrian community as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Kyoto is back in line. Takafumi, now it's time for your question. We hope this time it works out.
Thank you. Do you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah. I have a question to Kit. About football's team numbers. Proposal from LA or FIFA was men 12, women 16, or like men 16, women 16. If proposal is 16-16, what was the reason of reducing men's numbers?
Oh, thanks, Takafumi. Look, the final position was very much in partnership between the three organizations, LA 28, FIFA, and the IOC. Of course, we explored different options. This was the one that best fitted with the overall athlete numbers, with the popularity in the US and the wider message. So, it really fits into a package of football when we look at the US over the coming years as well. There's the Club World Cup, as you know, this year, the Men's Football World Cup next year, just 2 years after that, both the women's and men's Olympic tournaments, and then discussions about further women's tournaments beyond that. So it really fits into a wider and hugely exciting package of football in the US over the coming years and starting this year. So again, the 16 women, 12 men was very much the agreement reflected between FIFA, the IOC, and LA 28.
Thank you very much, Takafumi. Thank you, Kit. I think we are coming closer to the end, but we take a couple of more questions. First one is from Rich Perlman from the Sports Examiner. Rich, the floor is yours.
Good morning from the California desert. This one is for Kit. Can you talk a little bit about the reduction in modern pentathlon? It was pretty small to begin with, and now it's smaller.
Yeah, I think, Rich, firstly on modern pentathlon, I think we need to acknowledge the journey that the sport has been on. They're under very strong new leadership with Rob Stoll, who you know well from the US, taking over as the president recently. And the work they've done, not only to replace the horses with the obstacles, but the way they've approached it in terms of embracing the opportunity to really bring innovation and bring in new communities of young athletes around the world is something super exciting. And in fact, the challenges from that have come real opportunities, and the UIPM is looking at that quite boldly in terms of the way they want to embrace that. And that's super exciting in terms of where we think modern pentathlon will be by the time of the games in LA. Not only the obstacles, of course, which will be the most visual part, but the way they're embracing what the obstacles and the integrated formats of the laser run and the other elements can bring. In regard to the question directly, Rich, yes, there was a reduction of 4 men and 4 women. That's not in any way a further critical nature from our side. It's just a quota adjustment, which also actually allows a shorter fencing phase, for example, and allows the overall program for modern pentathlon to fit within the quite compact window that they are looking for, as well as the broadcasters. It was a decision from the IOC, let's be clear on that, but it allows that more compact format, and also allows within the overall program for us to find the 8 athletes needed in sport climbing to allow the minimum numbers of 12 per event in sport climbing as well. But again, not a criticism of the direction that modern pentathlon has taken in regard to embracing the obstacles and the new formats. They're doing a fantastic job, and we're really excited about the possibilities associated with that. So it shouldn't be taken in any way as a criticism of the direction they're going or the new leadership, which is really embracing this innovation in this direction.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Rich. Have a good day, and thanks, Kit. Next one is in India, the Indian Express with Mihir Vasavda. Mihir, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you?
Yes, we can, and we expect a cricket question, I guess.
Not really. Not really. Although I can sneak one in.
Sure.
All right. So just the number of mixed team events that have been added across sports. The philosophy behind it, if Kit, you can please explain. Is it the data from the previous editions that's something that is there, or what's the reason? And well, if you've lured me into cricket, 6 teams. Is there clarity on the qualification process and the next steps for that?
No,
and also, will the matches be in New York as it's been reported?
No, thanks, Mihir. Firstly, on the mixed events, yes, there has been an increase. I think the most significant increase in the number of mixed events came from Rio to Tokyo, when the real implementation of the Olympic agenda kicked into effect. I think the mixed events for us, and I referenced it earlier in regard to some of the specific questions, the mixed events are a real true embodiment of gender equality, men and women competing in the same team, on the same field of play, for their country. This is really embracing the true spirit of gender equality. In fact, in some sports, they're starting to push the mixed event into even new areas. For example, in rowing, they've developed a mixed gender 8, which will debut at their World Championships in September. So it was a little bit early for us to confirm that included in the Olympic program, but that's something that we're obviously supporting, to seeing how that would work for 8 athletes mixed gender in the same boat, for example, taking the mixed gender events to a new and innovative level as well. So no, we have increased the number of mixed events. We've seen the real success of these. They bring something incredibly special for the athletes involved, and we've seen them increasingly also be super successful in their own World Championships. And again, as I mentioned earlier, I think it was in regard to Akako's question on gender equality, we've seen real success in terms of broadcast audiences and media coverage, and the in-venue interest as well. So again, not only a true embodiment of gender equality, but a real success in terms of the numbers of audiences around the world that are embracing these, and the athlete experience is obviously something very unique as well. Think back to the 4x400 athletics mixed relay and the incredible images of the team celebrating the podium there in Paris, and this is what's waiting for us in LA as well, with the increased number of events there. Now, coming on to cricket, the qualification system hasn't been finalised yet. All of the qualification systems across the different sports are due to be completed in Q3 this year. Obviously, the decisions today were critical to allow the qualification systems to now be developed. Once we know the actual events and the athlete numbers, the qualification systems can be finalised. We've already finalised the principles ourselves, which are very much reflective of previous games where they've been successfully implemented. So it's up to each international federation now to work after the decisions today to develop those qualification systems. That includes cricket. So over the coming months, we'll have more detailed discussions with the ICC and aim to finalise that by the end of Q3 this year. And in regard to the venue, no announcement yet, as Christoph referenced. That'll be LA working with their local partners to make those announcements very shortly.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the last question of this press briefing goes to Rachel Axon from the Sports Business Journal. Good evening, Rachel.
Thank you for taking the call and the questions. 2 for Kit. Within the core program that you're talking about, the quota, I'm wondering where sports were losing quota spots, namely to add water polo teams and, even though they're small, 3-on-3 basketball teams, I'm wondering where those are pulling from. And then just a logistical question on mixed team for gymnastics, as there are two apparatuses that the men compete on that the women don't. How is that planned to work?
Yep. No, thank you, Rachel. Firstly, in terms of the athlete quota adjustments, as you'll see in the press release and the full detailed LA program that goes out shortly, there are actually very few changes in the quotas. In the vast majority of sports, exactly the same quotas were maintained from Paris to Los Angeles, and that was the beauty, if you like, of keeping the 10,500 with the 31 of the same 32 sports we had from Paris. The only sport, obviously not included in that 31 for Los Angeles, is breaking, which was proposed by Paris for that edition of the Games. Breaking had 32 athletes in Paris. Those 32 quota, if you like, are the 32 that will be now used by 3-on-3 basketball. And there's a real logic to that as well, Rachel, when you think about Paris. Breaking and 3-on-3 shared a venue. When we look at LA, they will obviously set up the 3-on-3 venue. So in many ways, it makes sense for that quota to allow additional sessions of 3-on-3 basketball to fill those sessions of breaking that we won't have in LA. So there's a real logic there. But again, builds on the incredible success of 3-on-3 that we've now seen. And you can imagine both basketball and the urban version of basketball, the popularity and the fit with the LA vision of the Games. So that was the first question. And in regard to artistic gymnastics, no, the format hasn't been finalized. We've set a timeline for the end of May, so that can be confirmed by FIG. And as you noted, there are some variations in the apparatus used. So FIG will now work on the final details of that and discuss with LA ourselves and OBS in terms of the broadcast side of that. But again, an additional session of artistic gymnastics, and it'll be something really special to see those men's and women's artistic gymnasts competing together for their countries. So that'll be finalized in the next couple of months.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kit. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Christoph. This closes our press briefing. I think Kit had many words. He deserves a good dinner now. Thank you very much to all of you. Have a great night. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.